Debunked, 10 world facts you thought were true but aren't. Have you ever heard the aphorism that celestial lightning never strikes the same place twice? Or maybe you've been told that exposure to frigid temperatures can give you a cold-like ailment? These are just two of the myriad misconceptions that have become intricately woven into our collective understanding of the cosmos. Perpetuated through the annals of time, these fallacies have become so deeply woven into our cognitive tapestry that we unhesitatingly accept them as empirical certainties. Nevertheless, the time has come for us to dispel these illusions and correct the record. From the mysterious vagaries of natural phenomena to time-honored historical beliefs, this compilation directly challenges these common misconceptions. Some of these misconceptions have been handed down through the centuries. Others, however, are the result of contemporary misinformation campaigns. Prepare for a cognitive realignment as we uncover the truth behind these 10 commonplace delusions about our existence. You may be surprised to discover that certain truths you've clung to for years are, in fact, pure fabrications. Number 10. Deserts, not always a hotspot. Sure, the word desert often conjures up images of scorching sand dunes under an unrelenting sun. But it's time for a revelation: deserts are not universally hot. The true definition of a desert depends on the amount of precipitation it receives, regardless of its temperature. Specifically, a desert is characterized by an annual rainfall of less than 10 inches, 254 millimeters. Interestingly, the largest desert on our planet is a frigid one. Spanning an astonishing 5.5 million square miles, 14.2 square kilometers, Antarctica earns its desert status due to its extremely low rainfall and lack of vegetation. Instead of sand dunes, this polar landscape is covered in snow and ice, with average temperatures ranging from -10 degrees Celsius, -14 degrees Fahrenheit, along the coastline to a bone-chilling -60 degrees Celsius, -76 degrees Fahrenheit, inland. In addition, other cold regions, including parts of the Arctic and high-altitude mountain regions, also merit desert classification because of their minimal precipitation. This revelation changes our perception of deserts, dispelling the exclusive association with heat and sand. Icy and arid regions such as Antarctica demonstrate that deserts can be as frosty and parched as they are scorching and dusty. Number 9. Diamonds, not as rare as you think. Diamonds have long been heralded as rare and precious gems, symbols of opulence and wealth. But is their scarcity really as pronounced as the prevailing narrative suggests? The truth may defy conventional wisdom. The narrative of diamonds as rare and invaluable was artfully constructed by the De Beers diamond conglomerate in the 1930s and 1940s. They had a firm grip on the industry, skillfully managing the supply of diamonds and cultivating the illusion of scarcity. Remarkably, their dominance of the global diamond market continued well into the 2000s, with a stranglehold of up to 2/3. However, a fascinating paradox emerges. De Beers' own researchers predict that the world's natural diamond reserves will be depleted within the next 2 to 3 decades. Yet a remarkable development in the field of lab-grown diamonds has opened up the possibility of creating gems that are virtually indistinguishable from their naturally occurring counterparts, all without the need for mining. Consequently, while diamonds may not be as abundant as other gemstones, the notion of their extreme rarity can largely be attributed to marketing strategies that began in the early 20th century. Number 8. The forbidden fruit was no apple. The infamous fruit that Eve plucked from the Garden of Eden has long been depicted as an apple in countless paintings, movies, and stories. This image has become so ingrained in our collective consciousness that it is almost inconceivable to think of it as anything else. But there's a catch: the Bible never explicitly identifies the fruit of the tree of knowledge, merely referring to it as a fruit. The misconceptions surrounding the apple can be traced back to Latin translations of the Bible, where the word malus was used, a term that could encompass both evil and apple. Over time, these two concepts became intertwined, and by the Middle Ages, the myth was firmly established, despite the lack of a direct biblical basis. Numerous scholars have postulated alternative theories, suggesting that the actual fruit in question may have been a fig, a grape, a pomegranate, or another species commonly found in the Middle East, the cradle of civilization. Regardless of these conjectures, the true identity of the forbidden fruit remains a mystery. Consequently, while the apple may persist as a symbol of temptation and transgression in modern times, the true nature of the biblical forbidden fruit remains shrouded in mystery. Number 7. Cold weather, not the real cause of colds. Feeling a sudden chill? You might be inclined to think it's a harbinger of an impending cold, but that assumption isn't entirely accurate. Despite the common misconception that venturing into cold weather or getting soaked can lead to illness, it's important to realize that cold temperatures, in and of themselves, are not responsible for ailments like the common cold or the flu. The real culprits are not the frigid temperatures, but rather insidious viruses. Here's how it works. Cold viruses find a more favorable environment for proliferation in the dry indoor conditions that tend to prevail during the colder seasons. These viruses spread primarily through contact with people who are already infected, not through the environment. While breathing in cold air may make your nose run and potentially compromise your immune system, it is exposure to these infectious microorganisms that ultimately causes winter illnesses. So the next time you find yourself shivering in the cold, remember this important distinction: it's not the temperature itself that poses a health risk. Instead, it's the lurking viruses that require your vigilance and precautions. Number 6. Lightning, a repeat offender. Contrary to popular belief, lightning has the ability, indeed, the propensity, to strike the same location repeatedly. In fact, it often targets the same location multiple times, especially when circumstances are conducive to such an occurrence. Lightning is naturally drawn to the tallest object in a given environment, often making it a recurring focal point for strikes. Consider, for example, the iconic Empire State Building, which is the site of multiple lightning strikes each year. This phenomenon is not limited to urban landmarks, but extends to both natural and man-made elevated structures such as towering trees, high mountains, and radio antennas. These structures, by virtue of their imposing stature, often attract lightning like magnetic beacons. While the likelihood of a random location experiencing multiple strikes remains relatively low, established landmarks will often withstand repeated strikes if the optimal conditions are met. Therefore, when seeking shelter during a thunderstorm, it is wise to remember that a recently struck tree may very well find itself in the crosshairs again. The age-old notion that lightning never strikes the same place twice? A shattering myth, no doubt. Number 5. The Great Wall of China, not so visible from space after all. Here's a widely circulated fact that has often fueled trivia games and lively dinner table discussions: the claim that the Great Wall of China is the only man-made structure visible from space. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? Well, brace yourself for a reality check. This claim is, in fact, untrue. The Great Wall, while undeniably a feat of grandeur and vastness, simply lacks the breadth to register as visible from Earth's orbit. Imagine trying to make out a single strand of hair from just a few feet away, a daunting challenge, to say the least. Now magnify that difficulty to a scenario where the hair is thousands of miles away. This approximates the daunting task faced by an astronaut attempting to see the Great Wall of China from the confines of space. So the next time you encounter someone who claims the Great Wall is visible from space, you can confidently dispel this enduring myth. It serves as yet another reminder of how misconceptions can become firmly embedded in our collective knowledge. Number 4. Camel humps, fat reserves, not water tanks. The iconic humps that adorn a camel's back have long been associated with the idea of water storage. It's a common misconception, given camels' renowned ability to endure harsh desert conditions and travel long distances without a drink. However, it's time to dispel this myth once and for all. Camel humps are not actually water reservoirs, but rather reservoirs of fatty tissue. This stored fat serves as a vital source of energy, especially when food and water become scarce during the camel's arduous desert journeys. When a camel finally has the opportunity to hydrate, it can ingest an astonishing 40 gallons, 151 liters, of water in one sitting. However, this water is stored in their bloodstream, not in their humps. So while camels are undoubtedly remarkable desert survivors, it's not because they carry portable water tanks on their backs. The reality is far more intriguing. Those humps represent energy reserves, ready to be tapped when the going gets tough. Number 3. Fortune cookies, not a Chinese invention. Have you ever ended a meal at a Chinese restaurant with the delightful surprise of a fortune cookie? It's a charming ritual, often perceived as an integral facet of Chinese culinary culture. But it's time to reveal the truth. Fortune cookies are not a native invention of China. Instead, their origins can be traced to Japan and the vibrant city of San Francisco. The fortune cookies we enjoy today, decorated with hidden messages of destiny, first appeared in San Francisco in the early 20th century. These delicious treats were created by Makoto Hagawara, a Japanese immigrant, in the magical setting of the Japanese tea garden. Interestingly, a similar variation of these cookies, which contain inner messages, were made in Japan as early as the 19th century. While fortune cookies have become a staple of American Chinese restaurants, they remain conspicuously absent from the tapestry of traditional Chinese cuisine. The next time you crack open one of these cookies and unravel its prophetic message, consider that its origins are a fusion of American ingenuity and Japanese tradition. Number 2. Vikings, horn-free helmets. When you conjure up an image of a Viking, what's the first thing that typically comes to mind? It's often a vision of a fierce warrior wearing a horned helmet, isn't it? Well, it's time to reevaluate that image. Despite their widespread portrayal in today's media, the truth is that Vikings did not actually wear horned helmets. This iconic image is actually a product of the Victorian era. The idea of Vikings wearing horned headgear was popularized by romanticized artistic depictions in the 19th century. However, historical evidence does not support the existence of such helmets among Viking warriors. Practicality alone would have discouraged the use of such headgear, given the inherent challenges of navigating a ship or engaging in battle with cumbersome horned adornments on one's head. So while the image of a Viking adorned with a horned helmet may certainly enhance the drama in theater or comic books, it remains a significant departure from historical accuracy. It is a testament to how easily misconceptions can take root and become deeply embedded in our collective imagination. Number 1. Cleopatra, a Greek Macedonian queen. When you think of Cleopatra, you probably think of an Egyptian queen, don't you? Well, it's time to rethink that notion. Cleopatra, undeniably one of the most famous women in history, was not actually of Egyptian descent. Her ancestral roots were in Greek Macedonia. Cleopatra belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty, a lineage with its origins firmly rooted in the Greek Macedonian heritage. This dynasty rose to power in Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. Although Cleopatra was born in Egypt and was the first of her dynasty to master the Egyptian language, her lineage did not originate in Egypt. Despite her momentous role in Egyptian history, Cleopatra was essentially a Greek Macedonian who exercised authority over Egypt. It's a fascinating twist that challenges the conventional view of this legendary queen and her heritage.